Hello, everybody. Welcome to part two of our investigation into how fascism on YouTube is being rehabilitated by YouTubers. In the first episode, we looked in the case of PewDiePie, but there was a very significant event that we just so happened to overlook. So we're going to take a little peek into that now. Um, this was a stream where PewDiePie was playing, looks like PUBG, and he lets a little something slip.
What a fucking nigger. Jeez, oh my god, what the fuck? So
You guys heard it here. It's the hard R. He dropped that bomb, came under a lot of fire for that, and just in the same fashion as his death to all Jews joke, he had people come out and try to rehabilitate this and try to say that oh, it's just the outrage machine once again attacking PewDiePie. Um, Once again, I say it's not the outrage machine's fault. It's PewDiePie's fault for saying stupid shit. You know, you don't want people to be outraged at you, then stop saying stupid shit. But anyway, we are moving away from PewDiePie now into a whole other realm. This guy's name, well, this is Destiny, but the guy we're going to talk about, his name is Jontron. And it's really kind of sad because I was a fan of Jontron. I liked Jontron's videos, his reviews. He put a lot of production value into them. And, you know, even to this day, he puts a lot of production value in his videos. It's a shame to see him come on Destiny's stream and just completely uh, spew out this fascist propaganda rhetoric. So let's take a listen.
Or
okay, what's the problem with young black males?
Well, they commit disproportionate amount of crime in the country, and
Why do
mostly
you think they
against each other.
Why do they commit a disproportionate amount of crime?
Well, we can go into that forever, and I don't really want to go into it.
So this people like you are why BLM exists. What you just said was like so mind-numbingly like arrogant. Like, do you think they just do it because they're black? Because the negroid skull
No.
like predisposes them to crime? Well, then why did you laugh there when I asked you that? Black
because
people,
I don't
young
want to
black
go.
people.
I don't want to incriminate myself, and because I'm not.
Why are
really
you so?
I don't want to incriminate myself, but you know, black people just commit more crime. Naturally commit more crime.
I'm scared of saying something that's going to come off as racist. Don't you think that's a little bit predictive of?
You're like going on a what's one of those talk shows where they try to trap you.
Do you feel like you're being
You should
trapped?
go on CNN, dude. You should work for CNN.
So, the problem is young black men in the United States are disproportionately born to single mother households, which is a leading indicator of crime. They're also disproportionately born into ghettos and low-income housing areas. They have access to worse education, okay? They're born into horrible socioeconomic
Reading this chat is pretty hilarious too.
conditions. All of these things are massive contributors.
Stop trying to trap me by making me say what I believe. I mean, that's pretty much like what Jontron's saying to Destiny
to
right
being
now.
a criminal as you grow up. When you
Yes,
control
but you are making the argument that it's like white people that put them in those situations.
Because they kind of sort of did over the past like 200 years. They kind of brought them over as slaves. They kind of bred them a certain way. They kind of, redlined them and gentrified them out of certain neighborhoods.
Destiny's doing my job for me. It's kind of sad to see how far he's fallen from this point.
In certain communities, they kind of legally discriminated on them and put them all in certain areas for a long time. They kind of disproportionately policed them and sentenced them to higher crimes in the courts and whatnot. Like, white people have contributed a lot to this.
So I suppose that's why the crime rates are pretty consistent across Africa too.
We're not talking about Africa. We're talking about the United States
We're never
of America.
talking about
Because, you know, imperialism hasn't torn Africa to pieces, and colonialism before that hasn't torn its pieces. You know, Africa's perfectly stable country, perfectly stable It would have been, at least, were it not for those darn blacks who were just predisposed to living in anarchy.
We're never talking about anything with you.
We're always talking about the United States. It seems like every time I have a point about the U.S., you want to go and move to another.
I remember in this debate, Jontron kept saying, well, what about in Japan? Well, what about in Europe? Well, what about here? Well, what about there? And every single time, Destiny had to keep saying, we are talking about race in the United States right now.
Another continent.
No, because oh man, you are not living in reality.
What? I'm not like. Can you name 5 countries in Africa?
Yeah, of course I can name 5 countries in Africa: South Africa, Ethiopia, Zimbabwe, Nigeria, Zaire.
All right, you got it. You did it. Okay.
All right.
I don't know why going to Africa to talk about their problems is somehow like a valid.
Because you have to learn how the blacks think. You see, they're different. They're different than you and I. They have some kind of, I don't even know Jontron's logic behind this. I guess he just thinks like black people are kind of a different species in and of themselves, and that, wherever they are in a majority, like there's just going to be crime and anarchy. And he says, look at all the instability in Africa, and just as checkmate, without any kind of like regard to the economic and political conditions that cause the current state of many African countries. So, Jontron's kind of an idiot.
Things going on in the United States.
Look, this is ultimately, I feel like you're trying to catch me in some sort of racist gotcha.
I'm not trying to catch you. Why do you feel that way?
It's because I am not saying that the country needs to be 100% white. I'm not saying that black people are not as good as white people. I'm not saying brown people aren't as good as white people.
So then why don't you want to address, when I ask you, why do you think young black men commit more crime than white people? Why are you scared to answer that?
Well, because, it's a taboo subject.
How is it taboo? None of the things that I just said are taboo. What else is there to discuss?
Because look, here's what I'm trying to say. What I'm trying to say is that if you're asking John, the human being, what is it that you would like? I would like every person to have the best possible life on the planet. That's genuinely what I want. Now, to what degree we can do that, that's the separate question.
Yeah, but in order to figure out how much we can do it, we have to identify the causes of the problems, because until we've remedied the causes of the problems themselves won't be fixed.
But we've been hearing this.
The problem is, the color of their skin. That's it. It's not like the material conditions of society. It's the color of somebody's skin.
Single motherhood thing for decades, and it's getting a bit tired. I think that's why you're seeing this rise in all these.
The single motherhood. Let me rewind that a little bit so I can hear what he said in context.
It gets a bit.
Of the problems, because until we've remedied the causes of the problems themselves won't be fixed.
But we've been hearing this single motherhood thing for decades, and it's getting a bit tired.
The sheer amount of like racism and arrogance and just privilege that goes into that statement is disgusting. Jontron's essentially saying, if you're a single mother, especially if you're a woman of color, that rhymed, but she has so much obstacles in her way. She has to not only make a living on the lowest economic rung, but she also has to raise a child. And this is a child in an environment that is completely impoverished. And if it's inner city, it's usually in the midst of intense gang crime, police brutality, or just police negligence, and complete economic poverty. So, to say what was it again? Let me just.
For decades, and it's
to say the single mother issue isn't a real issue, or it's getting tired. That's just completely arrogant and privileged, and just so so callous and uncaring. And I mean, does this guy not give a shit about single mothers? I mean, uh, what if his mother had been a single mother living in um, a very poor part of town? Uh, so, I mean, I think it's just this complete inability to exercise empathy that makes fascists the way they are. I'm still trying to figure out why fascists are the way they are, because they're so uh, foreign to my way of thinking. I guess I'm just naturally empathetic. I'd like to think all people are naturally empathetic, but some people just seem to not, just really not give a shit, and it's really horrible to see.
Getting a bit tired. I think that's why you're seeing this rise in all these quote unquote Nazis that you're seeing, that everyone's seeing everywhere, like the
Nazis come from so Nazis are created because white people are tired about hearing about poor black single mothers. That's a pretty spicy hot take, John.
took acid and they're seeing bugs crawling out of the woodwork or something.
Wait, so what do you think is the reason why young black men disproportionately commit crime in the United States?
Well, at this point, it doesn't really matter. All the
But then how do we fix it? Do we just kill them all or deport them all?
No, of course, kill them all. You see, why? Perhaps you're the one with the depraved mind. Because why are you going to kill them all? Why do you go there? Because on some level, is that what you want? I mean, why the fuck you say kill them all?
You're not leaving me any options, John. You're saying...
They commit more crime. Kill them all.
You're literally saying they commit more crime. I don't know why they do it. Fuck it. We can't do anything to fix it. That's what you're saying. So what's the solution then? You have no solutions.
They do more crime, ... I mean, the solution is implied, but the thing about these fascist and crypto-fascist propaganda is that in crypto-fascism, you don't have to tell them what to do. You just have to say, this is the problem. Somebody should do something about it. And later on, somebody else does something about it. So let's keep listening to this.
Saying that, I'm just saying, when white people are aggressed against in their own nations by people who are not white, and they're told constantly, check.
When white people are aggressed at by people not in their own nations. So, I mean, with this Jontron sort of giving up the ghost here, he's giving up the game, rather, because he is completely admitting, like, he believes the United States should just be a white country for white people, and or at least constitute a white majority. And this is the kind of basis of the great replacement theory. I will pull up a handy dandy drawing I did, if I can find it. Where are you? Here we go. It should be here. Let's see. Great replacement. Here we go. Yeah. This is essentially great replacement theory. We have to keep the blacks from coming out because they'll replace us slowly. More of the politically charged fascists will call it will use more politically charged language, and they'll call it white genocide. Because slow demographic changes over time constitutes a genocide. When geneticists breed plants, and they breed, there's a species of plant with like red flowers and a species of plant with blue flowers, and they slowly outbreed the blue flowers to the point where all the plants are now red. Now it's genocide, guys. They've genocided the blue flowered plants. Anyway, going back to Jontron.
Your privilege. You colonized us. You owe us this land. Blah 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 blah. But you heard it all. when white people are aggressed against in their own nations by people who are not white, and they're told constantly, check your privilege.
Check your privilege. So he doesn't like being told that white privilege exists,
You know,
even though he just said, he doesn't like being told to check your privilege. But this guy literally just said, I'm getting really tired about hearing about single black mothers. The most privileged fucking statement I think I've ever heard in my life.
you colonized us. You owe us this land.
And they did. Africa was colonized, and to this day, it's still suffering under the yoke of neo-colonialism and imperialism. So we to say that they're just whining about nothing. It's all just a fake news. It's all just fake outrage. Black people don't really have any real grievances. It's completely stupid.
Blah 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 blah. But you heard it all.
I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about identifying root causes of problems in the black community and trying to fix and remedy those problems.
You're just going off on tangents, dude. Look,
I'm trying to I'm trying to like figure out the root causes of the problem. He's like, "Oh, you're just going on tangents, dude." All right, so Jontron just goes on Destiny's podcast, makes an absolute ass out of himself. The chat was hilarious. And Jontron went sort of under the radar. He came under a shit ton of fire. He caught a ton of shit from people, and rightly so, because you can't say stuff like that and then act all surprised and out and shocked when people get pissed off. Once again, if you say stupid shit, people are going to get mad. Somebody needed to sit down little baby John Jafari when he was like a kid and say, "Now, little John, when you say naughty words or when you say words that hurt others, sometimes they get angry." It's a very basic like understanding of like the dynamics between human interaction that John doesn't seem to be able to really comprehend. And but let's see how he is defended by our old friend Boogie2988, the logical sane centrist, who will tell us that there's nothing to see here at all, nothing racist whatsoever.
Saying, well, Colin Moriarty, his next job will probably be at Breitbart because he's a hateful hate monger, a piece of garbage. And it's no surprise to me that the industry would turn so quickly, because they would hate those people for being independent and for doing what they do. It's no surprise to me that they'll turn on Felix because they hate Felix for being independent.
Felix is PewDiePie. So essentially, Boogie is saying, "Oh, it's because the mainstream media, the big businesses, they don't want small independent YouTubers to stand up." So he's trying to phrase this as like a struggle between small independent YouTubers and like big corporations. That's totally bullshit. What this is a complete misrepresentation of the controversy. The controversy is not the struggle between small independent YouTubers and giant corporations. The controversy was the most subscribed to YouTuber on the website using fascist rhetoric and linking to Nazi propaganda. And this idiot comes out and says, it's just the mainstream media trying to generate outrage because they're jealous of independent creators.
And doing what he does. Jontron's a more difficult situation. You know, I consider John a friend. We have talked on Skype for many, many hours. We have helped each other out when it comes to just stuff. Talked about YouTube, talked about life, and it's been wonderful. And for the most part, I never
talked about how, poor blacks commit more or rich blacks commit more crime than poor whites, and
knew that John had the opinions that he has. I think recently he might have been red-pilled, as they'll say. And
for those of you who don't know, red pill is essentially a philosophy of anti-feminism It's essentially like the proto-incel philosophy. Most incels adhere to what they call the black pill, which is like a philosophy of absolute hopelessness, and they turn that hopelessness into like a rage and hatred of females. But red pills are just pretty much a woman-hating ideology that seeks to spread just this sort of crypto-fascistic, reactionary um, stuff and propaganda in as many subcultures and communities as possible. We see here uh, Boogie being uh, an accomplice in this, either knowingly or unknowingly. I would like to give him the benefit of the doubt and just assume he's an idiot instead of assuming that he's a harmful idiot and actively and deliberately contributing to the spread and rehabilitation of these fascists.
He's starting to say that stuff, and maybe he feels that way right now. Maybe he's learning. Maybe he's trying on new ideas and new hats.
He's trying on new hats. You guys remember trying on like the Nazi hat when you were in school? Like you just decided uh, to flip your politics completely 180 and say, oh, I think I'm gonna be a Nazi and just really hate Jews from now on and believe in Holocaust denial. I'm just gonna do that. Or I'm gonna start believing all this shit about race and IQ and politics and shit. And to, to just break all that down into, oh, it's just a different hat. Um, so I guess when the KKK was going around and lynching black people, the blacks really shouldn't have complained because I mean the KKK, they were just trying on different hats, guys. Um, Anders Breivik, that Norwegian mass shooter, he was just trying on different hats. Just so happens to be a Nazi hat, but give him a break, guys.
To figure out how he feels. And I don't think that's going to change my opinion with John. John has recently.
So, you have a friend, and then your friend suddenly starts talking about like why Jews are inferior and why they're poisoning our society and why we need to like round them all up and kill them or at least deport them. And you know you just decide, oh, I'm still going to be friends with this guy because it doesn't matter what his opinions are. uh the very next day he could say he loves Jews, and he's just trying on different hats. I'm just going to be his friend regardless of what he believes, even if it's like blatant Nazism.
Come out and said some stuff about immigration and people of color and things that he feels might be true, and discussed this stuff, and it's left a lot of people very, very angry at John, including ex-friends and ex-fans.
He said a lot of stuff about people of color that he feels might be true. uh I like how Boogie just kind of glossed over what exactly he said because he said stuff like he doesn't care. He gets tired of hearing about the plight of like single black mothers, and he says things like wealthy black people commit more crime than poor whites, and we live in a white nation and we're being replaced, and nothing racist here.
And I don't agree with most of what John has to say, but I certainly don't fault him for trying.
He would fight to the death for John's right to say it. I'm sure he would. I'm sure.
Trying on the idea, and I certainly don't fault him. But I certainly don't fault him for trying on the idea, and
I don't fault my friend for adopting fascist philosophy, fascist propaganda. I don't fault my friend for turning into a Nazi.
certainly don't fault him for trying to figure it out for himself and to think for himself instead of swallow and follow a narrative.
Swallow and follow a narrative. I would rather that bitch swallow the whole fucking narrative of just being a typical like normal centrist like fucking Boogie than to completely uh uh go off the deep end and submerge himself in this fascist hate-filled Nazi crap, but let's keep going. Let's see what Boogie has
Once
to say.
again, John is a YouTube creator and John is independent, so it's no surprise that people turn quickly on him.
See, it's the big bad businesses coming for the noble and independent small creators on YouTube who are just being persecuted. It's almost like the Jews in the Holocaust, if I may make a callback to our previous episodes. The Holocaust which most certainly had some good come out of it, but one of the things that wasn't good was of course the persecution, and just like those Jews and the Holocaust, John and PewDiePie, they are being persecuted. They are being assaulted.
Especially because some of John's stuff was pretty out there, I think. Stuff I would not personally agree with. But the point that I'm making here is these people who...
So he says, I don't personally agree with, but did he ever come out and just say it's fucking racist? Like, what he said is racist. He never really said that.
I consider peers, these people who I consider to be relatively good content creators, are feeling the teeth now, that are fully chewing them up and spitting them out.
So we need to rally behind these fascist YouTube channels, you guys, because otherwise the big nefarious they will come for everybody. The big business will come for everybody. Yeah.
They're the same teeth that nipped at me 2.5 years ago.
I mean, here's a fucking idea. If your entire if the entire way you make a living is based on YouTube, then maybe don't say horrible hate speech that will get you fucking banned from YouTube. I mean, you want to bitch about big business coming down and banning you and trying to silence you for being a small independent creator. They're trying to you're forcing them by saying the stupid shit. Once again, I had to say, if you don't say stupid shit, people won't get mad. Stop saying stupid shit, and people won't get mad.
And those are the same people who are so outraged now and vindictive with their outrage and feel that destroying these people's lives and their careers is
to Boogie push this narrative.
Correct, and they think they're the good guy, even though they're doing...
Listen to Boogie push this fucking narrative and tell me that he's this objective, sane middle. Tell me that he's not just shilling and rehabilitating these fucking fascists.
Very bad things to people. These are the same people that came at me 2.5 years ago that made me take a step back and say, you know what? I don't want to die on this hill.
Well, then why are you dying on this one?
I want to end my career over. I have a mortgage to pay. I'm not going to get other job offers like Colin. I'm not going to be able to always be independent like John. I won't be a multimillionaire like Felix and be okay and run my own corporation. I'm just some fat shit in a corner of Arkansas trying to pay his rent, now paying his mortgage, trying to pay his medical bills and stay alive. Maybe there is a better way for me. Maybe I will just play with my Pokemon cards.
Yeah, Boogie, you should just fucking stick to your little Pokemon cards. Maybe you'll get a shiny Mewtwo and you'll have a really nice stream. I wish you the best, but you need to really shut the fuck up about politics, and you need to stop defending these fascists. Anyway, let's move on to H3H3, of course, doing their part and helping rehabilitate Jontron after he made a complete ass out of himself. He went full mask off with his Nazism. So let's see what they have to say.
That was a hoot. All right, let's switch tracks here.
Okay.
Let's get this out of the way.
Yeah.
It's the elephant in the room.
Yeah. I was wondering what the fuck that was.
Oh yeah, no,
Is anybody else distracted by Ethan's like slow and uneven blinking? I find myself constantly distracted by that.
He's been awful. Just so intrusive. You had an infamous debate
Yes.
with
The
somebody that got you into a lot of hot water. It happened. How long ago was that now?
I don't keep track.
He really should. I mean, if I was Jontron, I'd be like I would have like a little white piece of chalk, and every day I would mark off like, oh man, it's been like 3,200 days since I completely fucked my life up. But unfortunately, he didn't really fuck his life up. I really thought he had at the time, but as we can see, you can bounce back from this if you have some friends who are also YouTubers of moderate success. They'll be able to kind of rehabilitate you. They'll just phrase it as, oh, it's big business coming after you, coming after these guys.
I don't know. It was like a year or so.
I don't remember. Wow, has it been that long?
Yeah, like 9 months or something.
Anyway, like there was a lot of backlash and a lot of people upset about what you said in it.
I wonder
and
why.
I guess my question is because I don't want to get too deep into it because this is a fun, lighthearted time. I don't want to debate anything with you.
They all say that. They all say, oh, I don't want to get into this, but let's get into this.
I don't want this to be anything negative at all. So if you're uncomfortable with anything, like you don't have to comment at all. Like I know you've moved past it and it was a really hard time for you.
Yeah, I'm sure people.
Oh yeah, it was a really hard time for him. I'm sure he's the poor thing. I mean, he has suffered so much. The poor baby. It was a hard time for him to be called out on the racist stuff that he says. To be held accountable to the words that comes out of his mouth. He's a grown fucking man with big boy opinions, and went on the big boy stream with Big Brain Destiny to share those big boy opinions, and then he gets all pissy when people don't like him. From a logistical standpoint, how did Jontron think that was going to play out? In what fucking universe did he think he was going to go up in a debate with Destiny, who would probably fucking wipe the floor with me if I went up into a debate with him? The guy can talk faster than the speed of light, but then you just say all of this crazy Nazi, just fascist great replacement racist crap, and then you're like, yeah, that this will go really, really well. I'm sure people will hear my opinion and agree with me, and I will definitely not take any shit from this.
People want to know about this, so I just get it out of the way because I haven't talked about it since then for good reason. I don't really want to get into this. It's a minefield of sorts. I'm not going to go back and nitpick everything I said and say and qualify it or anything. All I'm going to say is that in that moment I was going into something that I needed a lot more time to prep for. I just went in guns blazing because
he went in mask off. He revealed himself in that debate. I'm glad that he went in without rehearsing because it just showed the unadulterated views of Jontron. He didn't have time to plan out and flower up his language. He just said it. He went full mask off with his fascism, and he got his ass chewed out because of it by the internet, and rightly so. And he's acting like he is the victim in all of this.
You get a little arrogant sometimes, I guess. You think, like, I'm going to take this guy to task. But, like, obviously I understand, like, why people had the reaction that they did. It's not as if, I look back at some of that and I'm like, why the fuck did I say that? Like, no matter what, right or wrong, this is a fucking bad look there. I'm aware of that. But, it's pretty simple. Like, I'm not really going to get into it, but I guess the main question on everyone's mind is, is he a racist? Is he a Nazi? Mm-hmm. Simple answer, and this is what everyone wants. I mean, no. I treat every single person with the same respect.
He says no, but it's kind of like if somebody was caught with blood like all over them, and they were standing like right above a dead body. They had like the murder weapon in their hand and like bits of flesh in their teeth, and they were trying to say like, I'm not the cannibal killer. Like, sorry, you're kind of looking like the fucking cannibal killer. He's looking like a racist now, dude. You say racist things, you're you're fucking racist. This isn't hard to understand. This isn't like a difficult concept for Jontron to grasp, but there are consequences for big boys when they say words. When they say words that might make other people mad. When you're a big boy, sometimes there are consequences for that, and that consequence means people get pissed off at you at you when you say you don't care about single black mothers, and that you're real tired of hearing about that.
They afford me. So, I felt bad about the incident in a sense, but like I also just feel bad that we can't talk about these things without witch hunting each other.
Right.
It's not, once again, it's not a witch hunt. Like a witch hunt would be like me going through every single Jontron video and like piecing together individual like words from different videos to make him say something that he didn't even say. It would be like trying to find a needle in a haystack. Jontron went full mask off. Like it's you don't have to search this shit out. It's there for the whole world to see. He flew his Nazi flag high that day, and he's trying to act like he did nothing wrong, or that didn't really happen.
Because
I think his whole crux is just hoping that the H3H3 podcast audience doesn't go on Destiny's stream and watch what he actually said.
that's basically my full statement.
Okay. I mean, do you feel like you said some things that you regret?
Yeah, I could have phrased a lot of that better. The whole thing was just to put it in perspective for you, the second I went into that stream, it was an instant bump, bump, bump moment.
Right.
Curb Your Enthusiasm. I was thinking to myself, would it be weird if I just was like, sorry, Mike's breaking up.
That's honestly like what he should have done.
Yeah, no, I don't like reliving it now. I don't.
Did you have a lot of self-aware moments during that?
Of course, the whole time.
You're just like,
I was like, I should not be here.
I was wondering that. I saw you doing it. I was like,
the
John,
person.
no.
I was like, I'm not the person to fight this battle.
Right. Yeah. Well, let me just say for the record, like that I disagree with a lot of the stuff you said.
But I will fight to the death for your right to say it.
But I still think like if you genuinely feel a certain way, or some people genuinely feel a certain way, the correct way to deal with it is not to like prevent them from saying it.
Yeah, we've been seeing a lot of that.
We should be able to fucking talk about it. Like even if I strongly disagree, and even if I'm like, dude, that's fucked up. But I think that we should still.
All right, let me break it down like this. People following Jontron's ideology want to put people like Ethan, people of Jewish descent, in gas chambers and kill them. So, you're saying, oh, I think we should be allowed to live and let live. Well, he doesn't want. Fascists don't want to live and let live with the communities they deem too inferior to survive.
They'll be able to talk about it. I mean, I don't know. It's so tricky. Like
it's tricky. By the way,
is it an impossible task for someone as a fan of, if you say something they really disagree with, is it an impossible task for them to be like, I'm trying to get in the mind. I really disagree with that. I hate what he said, but I still love him as a person and as an entertainer. I guess that's a timeless question.
Yeah, well, that's been that's been through the ages,
Right.
But at the same time,
I mean, try going back and listening to like a Bill Cosby skit and then not think of the fact that he raped all those women. I mean, you can't divorce you can't just watch works of art or media in a vacuum and just pretend like the person behind that didn't say the things they actually said. Anyway, I've heard about enough from these bootlicking fascist enablers, H3H3 and Boogie2988. They are both despicable. and the means they by which they went about defending fascism and helping to sort of rehabilitate it to their audience. Of course, giving Jontron a platform, giving him an audience, giving him a way to apologize and to sort of uh, set his own to sort of to retell the story with uh, his own personal twist that spins it in his favor, instead of just watching and directly quoting. Notice none of these people like talked about what he directly said. They all just referred to it, and it's the same thing with PewDiePie. They all just refer to what they did like as some kind of joke or as some kind of like controversial video. Well, they don't talk about like what the actual controversy consisted of. So really horrible bootlicking. Thank you for watching.